I'm sorry, I just needed a minute to admire this fresh bleach that I got going on here. It looks so good. So, some people recently were like asking me, I was getting a lot of compliments, to be honest, in my last couple of videos on my eyebrows, and I changed some things. I went back to some old techniques, and I wanted to share that with you. It's very in depth, okay? This is not a one and done brow situation, but as you can see, my eyebrows, my natural eyebrows are not that impressive, but I've been making them look so fantastic, and I want to share with you what I'm doing. So let's do it. So first of all, I think one of the best things to do is to kind of like utilize your natural shape. I have decided to kind of just stop plucking my brows. You know, you can probably see some stragglers happening here. I just kind of like, because I don't have the fullest brows in the world, I do have quite a bit of like unevenness and sparseness, especially around the tail. I have this like weird bald patch here. I like to just kind of like have as much hair as possible. So usually like once I do my brows and I have them all finished, then I'll go in and like, you know, there's this hair down here, which will probably get plucked. I'll remove some of the like stragglers that are looking very out of place and kind of distracting. But before that, I'm just gonna leave them, okay? Now, what I like to do is I have two separate brow pencils, okay? I have a blonde brow pencil and then I have an ash brown brow pencil. This is such a random brand. I believe they're Australian. I've talked about them before, but they're not a brand that I hear spoken about often. So it might be brand new to you. It's called Auric Cosmetics, okay? I think they sent me PR years ago. And I remember being like, this is super random, never heard of them. But this brow pencil in particular, ash brown, is such a beautiful ash color, like a legit ash color. My experience, the majority of brow pencils from all brands are too red or too orange. I know a lot of people in my audience are similar to me, fair, and they have a warm olive or at least a very olive skin tone. And just that combination plus being very fair-skinned, things end up looking a little bit more saturated on your skin. And obviously having green in your skin tone makes the red or the orange, depending on if you're like a cool olive or a more warm olive, stand out even more in a product. So these colors are fantastic. It's just blonde or blondie and ash brown. Obviously I'll link it down below. I'm gonna start off with blondie. Now, the reason that I start off with blondie is because my eyebrows are kind of the opposite of what I want. They're more concentrated, like the hair is more concentrated in the very inner part of the brows. Like this is where it's thickest. And I want more volume in the outer part of my brows. That being said, I want cohesion throughout the brow, okay? So I'm starting off with a light color, and I'm actually gonna start in the inner part of the brow. So I'm gonna start with the bottom, because you can see my eyebrows on the top are a little bit more straight. They're a little bit more like shaped on the top, and they're very uneven on the bottom. So I personally like starting on the bottom, but you know, depending on your actual brow shape or where you're lacking shape, you might want to start there. I know there are some people, I think Mary Phillips likes to start with the top of the brow. I just don't think that that works particularly well for my brow shape. So I'm starting like right at the bottom, and I'm kind of gonna create a false edge here. Just kind of like, I'm following the points. I'm following the points of the hairs to create like a line. Now I usually start with this brow because I like it the best. So I like to kind of use this as a guide. I'm going all through the bottom. And because this is pretty light, I like my brows a little bit darker recently. I'm really just going in. I'm going to extend slightly at the tail, but not too much yet. Okay, so I have like a base for like, okay, this is how I kind of want my eyebrow to go. I'm going to go over to the other one going to start with this area where I have that like big bald spot. And again, bringing it all the way in. Okay, so trying to take my time and make sure that things are as even as possible. So I'm kind of starting off by doing the same thing on this brow where I'm just kind of like connecting the points. And I'm not really like going back and forth between these two yet. Just going to connect the points. Okay, now that I have that kind of like drawn out, now I'm going to try to even them out a little bit more. So I'm going to bring this down slightly. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to go in and fill in the top. Okay, so I'm kind of starting off with the edges, and again, this is like a nice, it's a light color. So if you're blonde, if you're like blonde and you want blonde brows, then you can just use this color. The reason I like this brand and this blonde in particular is that it's a very nice ash color. Like it looks really nice with my coloring, but I like to use it as a base. It's not too warm, not too orange, not too yellow. Okay, so shaped the top. Now wherever I have a little bit of sparseness in the front of the brow, I'm using the blonde to fill that. So kind of creating like a shadow underneath the hairs. Do the same thing over here. Again, kind of utilizing those points. Light hand, you know I'm holding my pencil back pretty far. Okay, so that's not bad. So now I'm just going to pretty roughly brush through. This is kind of just like my initial fill. You could use a powder for this too. I have a blonde powder that sometimes I use, but I've been recently just kind of enjoying pencils a little bit more. I'll make sure that that's like evenly distributed underneath the brow hairs. Now, once I start brushing, then I start to realize like, okay, here are the areas that are much more sparse. And once I start brushing them out before I like have actually set the hairs, it's kind of like an indication of, okay, like here are the areas that I need to pay a little bit closer attention. So now I'm gonna go in with ash brown. And again, I'm gonna start with the bottom, but I'm gonna start a little bit closer to the center because you can see this area right here is a little bit bald in comparison to the rest of the brow. So I'm going to use this to deepen up that area, create a little more contrast. Okay. And then I'm going to use a light hand, draw through the tail, extend a little more. Recently I've been just kind of like liking a little bit more extension. I feel like it frames my eyes a little bit better. Okay, so I'm just extending that. Again, just going through, and any area, starting with the tail, that needs more attention. Now I'm sort of like trying to even out the tail with this area of my eyebrow, which is more dense with hairs. Okay, so this color is trying to mimic the actual color of my brow hairs. It's slightly more cool toned, but that's okay. Okay, so that looks pretty good. If there's any little areas in the front that like really need something, just like a little evening, I'll just do some little like dots. Okay, but that looks pretty good. All right, this is my good brow. So I'm gonna brush gently this time, so I'm not trying to move that around too much. Okay, ooh, nice. You could one and done that. I mean, not one and done. I used 2 products, what are you talking about? Anyway, now we gotta get this even, okay? So similar, but I'm gonna start with just a light hand in that very bald area, the bottom of the brow, looking back and forth. Again, this area of the brow, that very center is a little more sparse. Using a light hand. Okay, so I want to bring this down a little more. and out. So I'm gonna extend ever so slightly the bottom line of the brow. Make it a little bit more even, and then my brow goes a little bit higher here than on this side. So instead I'm just gonna fill this area, which is, oh, too much. Ah. Brush it out, brush it out, brush it out. It's okay. We can fix it. Fill in this sparse area. I'm not going to take it up too high on that end because like this is, you can see this is like more rounded and a little bit higher. So I want to kind of like extend here, straighten to even them out. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna do the same thing, gentle brush through. You always wanna see like how the hairs are going to land, like where are they gonna lay? Ooh, you know what? In this inner part right here, I'm just gonna do some light strokes to even that out a little bit more. Okay. So now I'm going to go in with a little bit of my foundation and a flat brush. This is this is an eye cream brush from Sigma, but I love using it for concealer. So my foundation today I used, well, I mixed the About Face one with Lisa Eldridge 2.5. This is in the shade F2 Olive. So I'm just gonna take a teeny bit of this. I like to just kind of like pick up whatever's on the wand. I'm gonna start with the bottom. Always starting with the bottom of the brow. And just do a little bit of cleanup. I like using my foundation because it ends up not being too stark. If I use concealer, most of my concealers are just like a little bit lighter. Makes it a little bit easier to blend into the rest of my makeup as well. Okay. So this area can come up ever so slightly, so that's where I'm going to start the concealer. This is a great way to even them out. Again, really gentle, light hand. Tiny amounts of product. And from the top, without applying any extra product, because I've already got like a little bit of bronzer on, I don't really want to like mess with that. I can just see that this area of the brow, like this tail, is a little straighter. And this one curves a little more. So actually, you know, I'm going to pick up the teeniest little bit. And I'm just going to go from the top of this one and just cut that a little bit. So it's a little less rounded. Okay, so it's not perfect, but they're real close, you know? That's the goal with brows, is to just get it close. Make it look a little closer than it naturally is. Okay, now, I think people probably get sick of hearing me talk about soap in my brows, but I will never use anything else, okay? Sometimes I use other things for like more casual looks, but I pretty much always use my Pears soap. This is Pears soap. Don't know why I said it twice in a row. I get it on Amazon. Kind of smells like ginger a little bit. It's nice. So I'm gonna use a spoolie. My favorite spoolie was in my Sigma set, which I think is sold out. This is the E80 brush, little Sigma spoolie. I just like it. It's the perfect length. The bristles are the perfect length. It's small, so it's good for detail. It's just the best. You can just use a little bit of water. You just want to get your soap a little bit wet. I'm going to use this little setting spray from Tower 28. So I'll give it one mist, and it creates a little pool in there. And then I just kind of do this, pick up a little bit of that paste. Longtime viewers are going to be like, yeah, we know what you do. Anyone who's new, though, this is for you. So I'm going to, once again, start with my favorite brow. And I'm going to go against the hairs really gently, just using the tip of the brush against the hairs. Then I'm going to brush them down a little bit, trying not to scrape this against my skin too much. So I want to make sure that I'm coating all of the hairs. And then I'm going to brush up. Okay. And now this is where you decide how you want your eyebrow hairs to lay. Some people like them, you know, really intense and straight up. Some people like to kind of curve them like this. Some people just like them to be angled. Some people just like to set them in general, like whichever way they grow. I kind of like to lift and curve, lift and curve. The front, sometimes I like a little fluffier. I like to kind of push them up and out like that, you know, in a little bit, make them a little, I don't know, bitchier. I kind of like that sometimes. And then the rest of it, I'll kind of just keep them uniform. Okay, you don't want to use too much. You don't want to get it too wet. If you get it too wet, it's not going to set properly. So you want it to be kind of like, you want it to be slightly drier than like a hair pomade, if that makes sense. So going against. Brushing down. And then brushing up and out. And obviously when I'm laying, now I'm comparing to this brow, I just want to make sure that the shapes are close enough that the brow hairs are kind of going in a similar direction. But I'm trying to lay them so that they're not like, you know, if I have longer hairs over here, you can obviously trim them, but I don't want them to be like going up too high, you know, so it's not totally uneven. So I think that looks pretty good. I also don't mind my brows not being completely perfect. I think it looks a lot better when they're just like a little bit, there's like a little bit of an edge to them. Like, I don't know if you've ever noticed this about Billie Eilish. The inner part of her brows is like very different. Like one of them is like really fluffy and the other one's a little more round. And I love the way that looks. Like it's just unique to her, you know? So now I'm just gonna let this dry before I do the final step, which is the game changer. Where's my towel? And you want to make sure that it's dry, because if it's wet, then like if you go in with a brow pen, which is the next step and the most important step, in my opinion, it's going to just mix. It's not going to draw nicely. So you want to make sure that they are dry. Usually I will do this and then I'll like do something else. I'll apply my mascara. I'll do my lip liner. This is usually like an end of the makeup kind of step. So they have plenty of time to dry. I'm not just like sitting here waiting for my eyebrow hairs to dry, you know, because otherwise I'm gonna get impatient and I'm gonna go in when they're not dry fully and I'm gonna have a bad time. That's how it works. Okay, so the product that I want to go in with next is a brow pen. My favorite is the NYX Brow Tint Pen. They have a bunch of different colors. I almost said flavors. They have a bunch of different colors. The ones that I use typically are gray black or ash brown. I'll show you the difference in swatches. I also love the Melt Perfectionist Brow Pen. The only problem is that they only have one color. It's called Universal Brown. But it's such a good brow pen. So I can't really explain to you why I decided to choose a particular one of these colors. It's a feeling that just happens. Sometimes I only go in with gray black. Sometimes I only go in with ash brown. Sometimes I go in with this one. Sometimes I'll like go in with a little bit of taupe and then I'll finish with gray black. I don't know how my mind works. I don't know me well enough. So I can't explain it. Here are some swatches. What the fuck is this? Ash brown. Okay, so we have NYX Ash Brown, Melt Universal Brown, and then Gray Black, also from NYX. So yeah, when I'm looking at them, Gray Black is just like a slightly more, they're like basically the same value, so they're like pretty dark, but Gray Black is just slightly more cool toned than Universal Brown. Universal Brown actually has like a little bit more green in it. This is like slightly more gray purple. And then Ash Brown isn't bad, but it's just like slightly warmer and a little bit more, it's got a little bit more red tone in it. It's obviously lighter than these two. And I know that they're feathering on my hand skin. I never have a problem with these products feathering on my eyebrows. Never. I don't know why. I just don't. So since my brow tail is looking a little bit cool toned, I think I'm going to go in with Melt Perfectionist Brow because I want to amp up some of the contrast and I don't really feel like I need more cool toned because they're looking pretty gray under there right now. If the shadow underneath my brows was warmer, then I would probably go in with gray black. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of just balancing those tones so that it doesn't end up looking like extremely gray or extremely warm. So I usually will just kind of wipe this, like when you first open it, it's just like, usually there's like extra product coming out. So I'll just kind of like give it a light swipe on a paper towel. And then I'm just gonna go in, again, starting with the bottom and fill in the sparse areas. So any areas where I'm seeing, you know, patches that don't have actual hair, I'm going in with a brow pen to draw in individual hairs. And this is just that finishing trick that makes it look so natural. This is what makes people ask me if my eyebrows are microbladed. I'm always getting that comment and I'm always like, they are not. They are not. See, and it's just like just like a couple little strokes, and now eyebrows looking evenly distributed, beautiful, three-dimensional, framing my eyes so good. Do you see that difference that the brow pen makes? It's amazing. Now I had stopped using the brow pencils and I was just using a brow pen. And honestly, like, I think it's fine. It's really gonna depend on your preference and your brows. But I just think that this combination, like just taking a little bit extra time, a couple extra products, it just makes such a massive difference. It's just worth it. So over here, got a little more sparseness. This brow pen from Melt is so good. It's just so delicate, like it's tiny. You can really, it's smaller than the NYX one even. You can really draw in those tiny little hairs. I wish they did more colors. Like I want a cool toned blonde or taupe, like actual cool toned, you know? I need more colors. And then every time I think that I'm finished, I'll stop, kind of look in different angles. Sometimes one of my brow tails looks slightly darker than the other one. This is looking pretty good. Usually I like to compare like the very tail. Like, is this one a little bit shorter than this one? Kind of. So I'm just gonna extend, again, really light hand. Just like that. Yeah. I love. So that's it. Look at these brows. Are they not fantastic? I've been getting so many compliments, and I just figured, like, I've definitely done a brow tutorial like this in the past, but I figured I would give you an update because, I don't know, things are constantly changing. And you might not see those old tutorials. So I hope that this helped. I'll give you a deep zoom. Ooh, look. So nice. Right? So detailed. Looks like I have just like fabulously full brows. And I don't. That's my brow routine, dude. I hope that this was helpful. I hope it answered any questions that people have been having about my, you know, brow adjustment. No, they are not microbladed. This is what I do. This is what I do to get these brows. Do we remember what they looked like in the beginning? Not like this. Just to answer a really quick question, I also have never had any problems with like sweating in the summertime, like getting really hot and having this product run. I actually think that this is supposed to be, is this waterproof? No, it doesn't say anything about being waterproof, but I've literally never had that problem. That being said, I don't like go to the gym with makeup on, you know what I mean? I don't go to the gym at all, but I don't go to the gym with makeup on. So if you're one of those people, I don't know how these would hold up, but I have never had that problem with them like bleeding or whatever with sweat in the summertime. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Thank you so much for watching. Hope that this was educational in some way. Let me know what your favorite brow products are. Any of my fair olives, especially if you're more on the warm side. If you have like brow pencils that are more accessible or you think I might like, please tell me, okay? Because I feel like I'm limited and locked into this brand and I want to be able to try other things. So let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions that might be slightly similar to this. But of course, all of these products will be linked down below. Yeah, dude, I don't know. Brows. Love you. Farewell. Oh shit, my soup is done.